In 1950, there was a new member of the family, our second daughter, Kathy. We moved to Washington, and I was doing some reporting for a string of Midwest radio stations. I got a call from Ed Murrow, who wanted me to come to work at CBS.
Hello, America. This is Ed Murrow speaking from London.
I'd known Ed in England during the war. He'd tried to hire me then, but I chose to stay with United Press. But now that I had a family and a mortgage, when Ed called again offering pretty good money, I thought, well, why not? I figured if things didn't work out at CBS, I could always go back to United Press.
Hello, I'm Walter Cronkite.
So that was the beginning. Anchoring the news and covering the news, first on that CBS station in Washington, and then on the network from New York.
President Eisenhower this morning is back at his vacation White House.
I remember his first Sunday evening news.
And left almost immediately for a round of golf.
He went through it just like that, and messed up his name when he came to the end. He said, "This is Walter Cronkite." We thought, well, if he can't even pronounce his name, he doesn't have much future in this business.
The climax of the drama was reached when
those early days of television had to be about as exciting an assignment as anybody could ever have, any news person.
Behind me, you see the course of the Explorer, the American answer to the challenge of the Russian Sputniks.
We literally figured out how to do it as we went along.
The satellite itself is this part here. In that is packed all of the instruments which are now reporting back to Earth, and will continue to, as we've heard, for perhaps months to come.
You have to remember, this was long before the days of mini-cams and instant communications. TV equipment was bulky, and it was temperamental, too. To an old newspaper man, it was like carrying a printing press around on your back all the time. There were no satellites to get pictures from overseas. So we faced quite a challenge in covering the coronation of Queen Elizabeth in 1953. I covered it in London, and we figured out a real Rube Goldberg plan for getting film of that big event back across the Atlantic and onto the air here.
We are waiting here at Logan International Airport for the arrival of the first coronation films to be shown in the United States. They are coming in from Goose Bay, Labrador, directly to this point.
Well, we've been watching the skies to the north up here. We haven't seen anything yet. Yeah, there he is. There it comes across.
Well, there she is. He cut the engine, and that's it. And there goes Tommy Thompson up there to get those films.
They built a mini TV studio at the Boston airport to transmit the films that we'd taken in London.
And here they go. This is the foot race. I don't know. You got the first one there, Tommy, or do you know?
Walter Cronkite reporting from London. Queen Elizabeth II leaves Buckingham Palace through wildly cheering crowds to Westminster Abbey. She's to be crowned Britain's 6th reigning queen.
We took cameras where they'd never been before, into the White House, for instance.
And this is the diplomatic reception room.
Diplomatic reception room used to be a boiler room.
This room, Mr. President,
is the old kitchen.
President Truman was our guide and our piano player. And at one time, we rigged up a live transmission from way out in the middle of nowhere.
This is Walter Cronkite, and this is Newsman's Knob on the Yucca Flats.
The atomic test site in Nevada.
An atomic device of some 15,000 tons dynamite equivalent will be exploded at 5:20 our time. That's 2 minutes and 20 seconds from now.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Please stay in your positions until after the shockwave has passed.
One of our major purposes today was to find out things that the American people may someday need to know in case an enemy nation should drop a bomb on us.
Good evening, everyone. Here is the news from San Francisco.
After I'd been around a while, learning the ropes, CBS decided to do a morning show to compete with NBC's Today Show. And they made me the anchor man. It was a news variety program, you know the type, and for a brief time I kind of co-starred with Charlemagne the Lion and some other puppets. I traveled around on a big promotional tour for the show, doing a few things I suppose dignified news people might scoff at. But I also was learning a lot about how broadcasting works.
Winston tastes good like a cigarette should.
I actually did commercials on that morning show for the first time, and the last time, as it turned out.
Winston tastes good like a cigarette should.
As I got to the motto line, I said, and Winston tastes good, as a cigarette should. Well, my gracious, the bells lighted up in the control room, and I was summoned over to see the sponsor and the ad agency, a huge meeting. Why did you foul up the motto line? Why did you do that? What were you thinking of? I said, I was thinking of grammar. So you ought to read, Winston tastes good as a cigarette should. When we think of a motto, we like the motto like it is, and you're to do it like that. Which created quite a crisis and ended up with my not doing commercials on television.
We have just had, I've been advised, some film in from the Defense Department.
Sometimes when things went wrong, they really went wrong.
And here it is. This is the Explorer as it is being moved to the gantry. Unfortunately, however, the film seems to be upside down.
But you learn to roll with it and somehow get back on your feet.
1 hour ago, the Explorer was, there's our film now of the preparations right side up. Fortunately, the Explorer went up right side up, and we're going to see it that way. Hello, everyone. Here we are again in Studio A, our CBS television control point for the Westinghouse coverage, this time of the Democratic National Convention.
52 almost could be said to be the first televised convention in the modern fashion.
What counts now is not just what we are against, but what we are for.
It was the last conventions where we really saw democracy in action, which included a lot of chaos, for heaven's sakes.
Agreement, we were supposed to have a caucus here. 45 minutes.
That's Governor Fine of Pennsylvania arguing there with the temporary chairman.
I don't care.
Very few people listened to the speeches. They were wandering up and down the aisles, doing their own business, making their own decisions as to who they were going to vote for, while some poor yokel was up there making a speech.
The action of the delegates allowed.
It was really a mess, but it was fascinating because it was real. And at one point in the 52 convention, with the floor actually, you know, almost knee-deep in old newspapers.
And this delegate... Don't get panicky! Don't get panicky!
One of these papers caught fire.
I'll have it out in a minute. Don't get panicky. It'll be up in a minute. It's only a newspaper. Take it easy.
A speaker up on the floor was shouting, "Don't panic, don't panic."
Take it easy now. They'll have that newspaper out in a minute.
I was going to panic back in our booth, because our booth was back up in the rafters, and where we'd never have gotten out of that hall.
All right, it's all out. It's all out.
It turned out that a lot of the exit doors had been bolted shut or chained shut as security measures to keep people from obviously getting into the hall. But it could have been a real major disaster.
Governor Burns.
Mr. Chairman.
The governor of South Carolina had been speaking.
I want to announce...
When he came back, he said, "I want to assure this convention that I did not set that fire."
Not set the place on fire.
I'm Walter Cronkite.
By 1956, the parties were cleaning up that appearance in the hall.
To present to this convention as a candidate for President of the United States.
So the story changed as far as the civics lesson goes.
Adlai E. Stevenson.
We now have these shows that are put on by the political parties, and you don't really see much of what the real philosophical story is.
The assassination of Julius Caesar. You are there.
Walter Cronkite reporting, March 15th, the 710th year after the founding of the city of Rome. And
in those early days, we experimented with a lot of programs that weren't strictly news.
Let's go to Capitoline Hill and Harry Marble.
The most famous was